Saints may have one of the top 3 offenses in the league, but they also have the second worst overall defense. Their 34.3 points allowed per game are the most in the NFL, and it is getting worse.
How many points is that?
34.3.
Ooh.
Veteran cornerback Patrick Robinson, former first-round pick, will be placed on IR with a broken left ankle. All right, Coach, can the Saints offense overcome their deficiencies on defense?
We seem to talk about this every single year. It seems to be the same discussion with the Saints year in, year out, except with the exception of last year, where it changed to some degree. And when you look at the Saints, last year they were really good at turning the ball over. They did a great job of generating turnovers. The other thing they did is they ran the ball really effectively, and they had the 1-2 punch, and you know, hopefully they'll be able to get some of that back. And the issue this year is the big plays. It's these significant big plays. I'd say the space where they can make the most progress is maybe increase the amount of zones. Try to get it to a point where a team has to go down the field in smaller chunks so that the offense, as explosive as it is, isn't constantly having to generate the points that they generate. If they can eliminate some of those big plays, I think the offense can overcome it in the long term. But if it continues at this rate, it's hard for any offense to overcome that.
And they're very fortunate that they've been able to win 2 of the games. And the reason why Drew Brees is playing as good a football as we've ever seen him play. Last year broke the NFL completion percentage record, his own record, and this year off to a pace like we've never seen. 80% of his passes. Now, Coach, you've been to a lot of NFL practices. I've participated in a lot of practices and seen a lot of practices. There wasn't a lot of practices where I participated in that we threw the ball for 80% in practice. And I'm talking about even against air.
Right.
Like, it's hard to have 8 out of 10 with the footing and just all the things that can go wrong. He's doing that game in and game out. In game number 3 against the Falcons, late in the game, they had a drive where Dennis Allen decided, I can't sit back and bleed out. I'm never going to be able to stop this defense. So he has A.J. Klein, the middle linebacker, who's also a backup. Now he's filling in for Manti Te'o. He blitzes him. They get to Matty Ice, not to sack him, but they get to him, put pressure on him. He can't complete a 3rd down, which allows that game to go in overtime. Drew Brees calls tails. They drive down the field to be able to win that game. So they could have lost that game in regulation. What would the conversation be? Sometime when you have Drew Brees, we don't put the emphasis on that defense. That defense is really bad. Eli Manning is going to turn into Peyton Manning on Sunday afternoon based on the quarterback rating, Nick, that this defense has given up.
Drew Brees, best start to his career for any season, best start to a season in his career, pardon me, 122 rating. Quarterbacks playing the Saints, a 141 rating. He's completing 80% of his passes, 8 yards in attempts. Their opponents are completing 74% at 11 yards in attempts, which is insane. Chris, you mentioned the biggest play of the game was that A.J. Klein blitz.
Yes.
You know what the second biggest play of the game was? Coin flip. Because if the Falcons get it, I don't think the Saints ever get the ball. I think they drive down and score the touchdown. The part of this game... And it's overshadowing what has been, you mentioned 80% completions. How about Michael Thomas? He's been targeted, Coach, 40 times this year. He has 38 catches. That's comedy. That's a 95 catch percentage. And it's not like they're all dinks and dunks. Some of those are down the field. But once again, like you said, it's like the 2014, 2015, 2016 New Orleans Saints, where you better score 35 because they're going to give up 30. The part of this I don't understand is their run defense has been excellent. Giving up 3 yards per carry, top 10 in the league. Is that more because other teams just like, man, why would we run? We can pass so effectively?
Yeah, sometimes when you're really bad in one area and you want to point out something you're good at, you're not necessarily good at it because you're good at it. You're good at it because you're so bad in the other area. That's all that people do. I think that...
Yeah, but who delivering the mail would want to do it by a bicycle when you can do it by a private jet?
Yeah, right.
Like, and that's the way doing business with them through the air compared to the ground is, Coach.
It's got to be complementary, though. When you have a defense that's struggling or you've got a side of the ball that's struggling, you got to try to play complementary football, which means slow it down, take away some of the opportunities from the other team. Last year, the way that they were able to run the ball and control the clock, that was a huge part of the defense's improvement because they're not on the field. We talk about it all the time with Tom Brady. Best way to beat him is keep him off the field. One of the ways to protect your defense is to limit the amount of exposure that they have. Now, that being said, you can do things that make the team go the long, hard way. And typically, there's going to be a penalty in a long drive. There's going to be something that the offense does to stop them. And I get where they're coming from, where you want to generate some pressure, you want to blitz, you want to try to make a play. That's great, except when they're making 40-yard plays against you, it defeats the purpose.
If you're a Saints fan, you have to be so frustrated. It's not that Drew Brees is getting any younger. We talk about Pittsburgh in this window. This is a great Saints offense. It's not like this bad defense just surprised them and just they were coming off sort of a rough defense. Coming into this year, they knew they didn't have a great defense. How do you justify coming into a year having such a powerful offense and knowing what you're lacking, injuries aside, on the other side of the ball?
They thought they had it addressed.
Yes.
They drafted Defensive Rookie of the Year Marshawn Lattimore last year. They drafted the safety who gave up. Well, Lattimore's gone from not just Defensive Rookie of the Year, but Pro Bowl level player to one of the worst corners in the league through 3 weeks. I don't think that's who he actually is, but that's how he's played. They drafted Marcus Williams, who we all remember him giving up the Stephon Diggs touchdown, but he had an excellent year. They borrowed from tomorrow to pay for today in this year's draft, trading away next year's first rounder to move up to draft Marcus Davenport. So they thought they could have bookend pass rushers, Cam Jordan and Marcus Davenport, to go along with a guy like Alex Okafor. They thought that we can win a Super Bowl right now because we have a top 5 offense and we can have a fringe top 10 defense. I don't think they disregarded it, Jenna. I don't think they have the answers either. I don't think they know why all of a sudden their pass defense has gone AWOL once again, because last year they were very good.
I think they know that Lattimore is kind of the heartbeat of that defense. He's off to a rough start, and they're trying to get it corrected. They believe it's just positive reps in practice. I wouldn't say in a very, very short career that he is a great practice player, coach. I think that he's emerging as a practice player, and I think Dennis Allen, the defensive coordinator, he's trying to bring that out of them. Young players developing in this league, it becomes very, very tough when you have success. Where he thought it was a lot easier in the sophomore season, he's struggling.
And it's interesting when you have young players that have success. Sometimes they feel that they've arrived and they can act like maybe some older guys do. They can practice like some older guys do who have more experience, and they're not at that level yet. And just like we talk about quarterbacks, getting a book on a quarterback, understanding what they do well and do poorly, and attacking what they do poorly, it's the same thing defensively. Offensive staffs look at what a cornerback does well. What does he do poorly? And then they give you a bunch of what you do poorly. And it's like sharks to blood. Once you show that weakness, everybody does it to you. So you better go out and address that weakness. And if you're not addressing it at practice, then you're going to be on ESPN or wherever, FS1 highlight shows.
Yeah, good choice,
you know what I'm talking about.
That was awesome.
Yeah, thank you.
We got you. No problem. We understand.
But you're going to be exposed, and you're going to be exposed badly week in and week out.
Awesome. Andy Reid, thank you so much. Take a break. Coming up, Sean McVay has high praise for the Vikings ahead of their Thursday night game. And that's next on First
Did you
Things
say
First.
Andy Reid?
Yeah.
Oh, awesome job, Andy Reid. I get it.
I understand.
Oh, okay. She called you the wrong coach.
I don't get it.
She's a